Welcome. You have found the show we call Real Men Don't Cry, or do they? This is a podcast for men, and on this show, we will hear real-life stories from men about how they have navigated the complexities of being a man in this modern day. We are going to look at the boys don't cry way of thinking and how that has influenced them and how they have risen above societal pressures to be true to themselves. The focus of this show is men's real-world experiences, not just ideas and theories. I hope that you will learn from what they have discovered and use it in your life as well. Let's get into today's show. Hello, welcome to Real Men Don't Cry, or do they? I'm Brandon Archer, and it's been a minute since I've done a podcast. And I'm doing this solo. I'll explain why I'm doing this solo. It's important to me that this podcast is about stories. I have stories, both blocks and both what's happening in my life that I think can help people. That's why I started this. I wanted men to hear other men's stories so that they don't feel so isolated. And I'm super stoked with the guests that have shared because it's going exactly how I'd like to. Why I have not recorded a podcast for a while is two layered. The first layer is I got quite sick and I was okay to slow down and get better. No, I have no problem with that. I have no problem with missing some of my targets of how many podcasts I was going to record. I'll just share it with you. I wanted to do one a week, which I actually did do quite consistently for a while. When I got sick, it definitely derailed that. And it's taken me a while to get back here, even when I got better. To be honest, I had a lot of shame. I had a lot of guilt. I had a lot of, look, I don't actually do what I say I'm going to do. And I have worked for many years on dealing with those voices and those stories that I tell myself, it got the better of me for some time. And this is a tricky thing, in my opinion, in my life experience, of having compassion, proper, healthy compassion for myself versus beating myself up versus pushing when it's the wrong time to push. And people will have different opinions on you should just always push. I see a lot of men that think that's the way to go. I've tried that. It does not work for me. I don't believe it's the healthy thing to do for many reasons. But the shame I had to deal with to get back here was a lot. Even me recording this and admitting to you what's happened is not particularly easy. But it's aligned with my personal values. I believe vulnerability is important. I believe through vulnerability, you can get to know people better. If a person can show that they're not wearing a mask, making up, like I could have very easily made up some story. I could have very easily said I took a break. I could not tell you any of this. And there'd be nothing probably wrong with that. But I want to model vulnerability for many reasons, for many people. I don't want my son to feel like he has to hide when he's feeling rough, when he's not feeling 100%, because you can't feel 100% all the time. And that's where the compassion part for myself has come in. The watching myself, judge myself for why I haven't been here, why I haven't recorded something for a while. I have goals, I have ambitions, I have things I want this podcast to do for people. And it hurt me, hurt myself that I didn't, I suppose, push through when I knew I was feeling a little down, when I knew I was feeling like, shit, look at that. I'm not doing what I said I would do. I should just push myself and do it. And I almost did. And then I created a story of why I couldn't or why I shouldn't, or I was too busy, or I was doing this or I was doing that. And some of it was actually true. Some of life got just, after I was sick, it just got crazy, crazy busy. But my question to myself is, am I betraying myself? Am I creating these stories that keep me from facing the fear, the story I had that people would judge me for why I didn't record a podcast in so long? And those stories are tricky. They're convincing because I create them. I can make them real. I can make them feel real. I can make them sound real. I can convince myself that, oh yeah, that's what's going on. And I did. And I took the bait that my subconscious and my shadow and my self-doubts and my self-sabotaging wanted to present to me. I believed it. And probably when I started realizing what was actually going on is when another layer of shame kicked in of, oh, I know better. Oh, how can I talk to men about dealing with their shame if I can't do it? So I took some time to also process that, to figure out, how am I going to approach this? How can I deal with my own shame, my own self-sabotaging storytelling in a way that when I come back to recording something, I have something to say about it? And it took longer than I would have liked. And I'll be honest, there's still a little self-judgment about that. But logically, I know it's okay. Logically, I know a blip in the timeline, a blip in my efforts is not actually going to destroy what I'm trying to accomplish. And I've had to do a lot of writing and self-reflection around that so that I could get to a point where I'm like, yeah, I feel that too. Because the subconscious stories I was creating of self-doubt, of I shouldn't be, I have no business doing a podcast, I have no business trying to help men when I can't even do this myself, was so strong for a while and so convincing that I had to kind of work through that so that I could see, oh, right, this is the process. This is what happens. We ebb and flow. There's times we feel very powerful. There's times that falls off. And for me, in my life, it's the times I get back up that matter. And this is one of those times when I'm getting back up. And that is making me a little emotional as I speak it out, because I don't script any of my podcasts, and this is just coming from my heart, from my mind, from what's going on inside me. I think the emotion is, it's relief that I can get back up. It's probably partly realizing I am human, and guess what? That's okay. Guess what? You can't be 100% all the time. You just can't. It's not possible. I don't care what anybody tries to sell you. We are nature. We ebb and flow. There's times we are still, like winter, and not doing anything. There's times we grow. There's times to push harder. There's times to rest. And that doesn't mean you're not going in a direction. And for me, why is the emotion coming up? I'm going to have to think about that, to be honest. I've got a couple ideas, but One is I think I'm grateful that I know how to get back up, that I worked through my shame, my guilt, my fear, and I'm here because it's proving to myself that I can do it. I can't remember what teacher it is, but what's coming up for me right now, the thought, the quote is, I can do hard things. And hard things, I think, are relative. I think hard things is interesting because we create a story of why things are hard. For me, hard equals managing the emotions and the self-doubts and the guilt and the shame or the fear of judgment or the fear that somebody might not like me or view me as weak. And facing those internal reactions, that's the hard part. The actual thing is very rarely the hard thing. I was training for a cycling event and I got sick and it just screwed up my training so royally. But I've been through that cycle enough times to know, okay, this is going to feel hard. And physically it was definitely hard, but it's more the mental stories. It's more the, oh, just give up. Oh, it'll be easier if you stop. Oh, you can't do it the day of the event. There's no way, you're undertrained. And the hard things part of that whole scenario is just, do you have the fortitude to hear those stories and go, I don't buy into that story. I'm going to do the thing anyway, whatever the thing might be. The other thing for me is showing back up here because it definitely has felt hard for a couple weeks. It's a Saturday night when I'm recording this. Very easily could have reasoned to myself that I'm going to go downtown. It's Saturday night. It's a long weekend. It's beautiful out. There'll be lots to do. It'll be fun. But I was done believing those stories. I was done trying to hide from what I actually want to accomplish because I was hiding, because I was finding other reasons to avoid the discomfort of sitting down, setting up the computer, saying something vulnerable, because I knew I could not just come back and publish the other episode that I have recorded with a guest. I'm like, nope, it's not aligned with what I'm trying to do. It's not aligned with sharing stories so that men can hopefully hear some of their own life in a story. That's what I really want to accomplish. Not go downtown. I can do that after this. So for me personally, I've clawed back. I've honored myself. I've moved out of self-betrayal into living aligned with what I'm trying to accomplish. And it felt hard. And there was stories and shame and guilt that I had to work through. And that's exactly what I want to model for my son. I want him to see you can do it. I want him to learn how to navigate the doubts, navigate the voices that tell you why you can't do a thing and do it anyway. I don't want him to feel like he has to hide from any emotions that might come up in those times, that it's perfectly normal to feel emotional about something, to feel a charge. You may not be able to name that emotional charge, but it's okay that it's there. I wasn't expecting to be emotional recording this, but I was. I am. And I am going to publish this. Fuck that. Because, well, I said it's important to model to my son that this is okay. It's important that I to me that I show other men it's okay, because we're all human. I don't want to hear that bullshit that men are less emotional. That's not true. It's simply not true. We've been conditioned to bury them for many different reasons. And it's not healthy. If you watch this and you see that I'm getting emotional and it triggers you, I invite you to lean into that. Not look away, because chances are it's reminding you of something. It's probably reminding you of a time you felt emotional and you buried it, or reminding you of a time you felt emotional and were possibly ridiculed for it. That's possible too. And that's not right either. That's why I've not recorded a podcast for a while. I genuinely hope there's something in this share for you listening. Personally, I'm not gaining your praise. I don't need that. I don't want that. I want you to take something away from what I share on this show every time we record. I want you to take something away from the men's stories. I just shared a story. I shared my story, part of my story. And that's what this podcast is all about. So thank you for taking the time to listen, and welcome back. Got some guests lined up, and we're going to get back on track. See you soon. Thanks for taking the time to be here today. I honestly hope you found something you can use in your life. And I hope you found some relief in knowing that you're not the only one with challenges. We can be very isolated as men. If you don't have support in your life, please reach out to someone. It's okay to need help. It doesn't mean that you're less of a man. In fact, it takes a courageous man to know when it's time to ask for guidance. Until next time, brother.